The rain had a way of swallowing the city whole, drowning its secrets in its gutters. Tonight, though, something had surfaced. Something that wouldn't sink. I've seen my fair share of trouble, but this changes everything. Inside, the pages spoke in cold, clinical language. Numbers, diagrams, and photographs. The meaning was crystal clear and it hit like a freight train. If this was genuine, and it had every sign of being real, nothing would be the same. Not for me, not for anyone. I searched for any crack in the story, some sign it wasn't true. I found none, just more questions. Who knew about this? How far would they go to keep it buried? And why the hell was I the one holding it now? Whatever the answers, one thing was clear. I was standing at the edge of something vast, something dangerous. The kind of discovery that rewrote rules, toppled regimes, and left bodies in its wake. The kind of truth that could break the world. The kind of truth that I wasn't about to keep quiet about. You people don't see it? This is real! It didn't make sense at first. None of it. A dozen threads leading to nowhere, all tangled in knots that no one wanted to untie. My partner got involved, and even he thought I was crazy. Maybe I was. He told me that I was seeing ghosts, and that I was on my own with this one. But you don't stop when you're this deep. You can't. Crazy or not, I wasn't stopping. Not until I had answers. Not until the truth burned through all the lies. And when the dots all connected, I was ready to tell the world. And I knew just how to do it. This was a gamble that could change everything. And there wasn't a part of me that hoped it wouldn't. Most of you are familiar with the invasion of Iraq. But what if it wasn't just about oil and weapons of mass destruction? What if it was about something so much more? Something otherworldly. My theory suggests that Saddam Hussein had plans far beyond regional domination. He envisioned Iraq as a global superpower and believed himself as the modern Nebuchadnezzar. I present to you that Saddam Hussein was in possession of a Stargate, and the United States invaded Iraq to seize control before he could use it. It's the year of our Lord, 2100 BCE. Countless innovations appeared in a suspiciously short amount of time. Writing, the wheel, irrigation, all in a fertile plain between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. And on the Euphrates River stood the city of Ur, and in it, the great Ziggurat, a religious temple dedicated to the goddess Inanna. The ancient temple was constructed in the shape of a pyramid, a testament to the belief that elevation brought one closer to the divine. Around this time, 2100 BCE, Ur was at its peak. However, Ur's prosperity wouldn't last forever. The Euphrates River gradually shifted course, and salinization of the soil crippled its agricultural foundation. By 550 BCE, the city was all but abandoned and came under the control of Nebuchadnezzar II. He led campaigns across the eastern Mediterranean, conquered Egypt, and led the Babylonian Empire to its greatest heights. Under his rule, life in Babylon was prosperous, and the capital city of Babylon was seen as an architectural and cultural marvel, with technological advancements far beyond the rest of the world. Among his most famous achievements were the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The gardens were said to be lush, terraced, and supported by advanced irrigation systems. It's interesting that in such a short period of time, so many technological innovations were made under one ruler. One could be led to believe that there was some sort of divine intervention involved. In all of his projects, Nebuchadnezzar had his name stamped into many of the bricks used to build them. So many, in fact, that a lot of them are still completely intact today. He's also credited with the creation of the Ishtar Gate. It served as the grand entrance to the city of Babylon and was also dedicated to the goddess Inanna, who the Assyrians, Babylonians, and Akkadians would be known as Ishtar. I propose that this version of the gate was only symbolic, a shrine, perhaps. It's worth noting that Ishtar's symbol was an 8-sided star surrounded by a disk. This symbolism can be found on every Ishtar-related artifact. In addition to his military and cultural accomplishments, Nebuchadnezzar is remembered in the Christian canon for the conquest of the kingdom of Judah. After a prolonged siege, he captured Jerusalem, looted the Temple of Solomon, and brought many Israelites, including the biblical figures Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, to Babylon. As told in the book of Daniel, the story recounts an act of defiance against Nebuchadnezzar. The 3 wise men refuse to serve Nebuchadnezzar or worship his gods. When confronted, they declared, "If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand." Enraged by their defiance, he ordered that they be bound and thrown into a fiery furnace. According to the book, the furnace was so intensely hot that even the soldiers tasked with carrying the 3 men to it were killed by the flames. Yet, against all logic, they survived. To Nebuchadnezzar's astonishment, the 3 men reappeared from the flames, no longer bound, and a 4th figure had appeared among them. Nebuchadnezzar claimed that the 4th appeared to look like a son of the gods. He declared that anyone who denied the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would be cut into pieces and their houses reduced to rubble. His response was extreme, illustrating the power of divine intervention in his eyes, as he could no longer deny the supernatural of the event. Imagine with me for a moment, you are a 6th century BCE peasant living under Neo-Babylonian rule. You see 3 men executed into a fire. They return unharmed with another individual in tow. You cannot read and you cannot write. You too would fall to your knees, believing that this was divine action and not the activation of alien technology. Arthur C. Clarke famously said, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." I speculate that the heat from the furnace was actually a reaction of a powerful source of energy, much like Greek fire, but we may never know what material it really was. I also theorize the location of this event to have taken place in Ur, specifically inside the Ziggurat. The Torah and the Hebrew Bible refer to Ur as Ur-Kasdim, or Ur of the Chaldeans, with connection to the Chaldeans, who were known as astrologers in Ur. Modern archaeology reached the site, however. The Ziggurat was in ruins. In 1850, they were rediscovered by William Loftus. At that point, it was in poor condition, largely buried under millennia of windblown sand and the decline of Babylon. Extensive excavations of the site began in the 1920s and 30s, which was funded by the University of Pennsylvania and the British Museum. Many of the artifacts found at the site are carved with astrological symbols, many of them adorning the symbolism of Ishtar. These artifacts are still on display at the University of Pennsylvania and the British Museum today. Saddam Hussein strongly believed that he was a modern-day incarnation of Nebuchadnezzar II. He often used this belief to legitimize his rule. His regime's propaganda often depicted him as a protector of Iraq's ancient heritage, and he actively sought to revive the glory of Iraq through ambitious projects like the complete reconstruction of Babylon. He believed he would bring unity and prosperity to Iraq. During the 1980s, he invested millions of dollars into the reconstruction of Babylon. He even built his own palace near the ruins of Nebuchadnezzar's northern palace in Babylon. Many of the bricks that Saddam used to build his projects were stamped with his name in the exact same way that Nebuchadnezzar's had been. In the year 2003, the United States invaded Iraq. Officially, the American people were told this was due to Iraq's suspected possession of weapons of mass destruction. However, no WMDs were ever officially found. The invasion began on March 20th, 2003, and just 3 weeks later, the statue of Saddam in Firdos Square was toppled as a sign of the freedom of the Iraqi people. President George W. Bush officially announced his success on May 1st, 2003. And in December of 2003, he was captured, and in 2006, he was executed. The question remains, was the invasion primarily about WMDs or something else? A base known as Camp Adder was used as a logistics hub and center of operations in the region, a key location for the US-led forces. Placed where? That's right, directly on top of the Ziggurat of Ur. Gulf War illnesses refer to a range of health issues experienced by military personnel who served in the Iraq War. These illnesses have been the subject of extensive research and debate with no definitive cause identified, though various theories exist regarding their origins. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs has conducted extensive research into the Gulf War illnesses, though no clear single cause has ever been established. The soldiers stationed at Camp Adder, however, were particularly affected by the illnesses. I theorize that in an attempt to access long, locked-away areas within the Ziggurat, the United States successfully released hundreds of ancient illnesses, much like the tomb of a mummy. To understand the connection, we have to understand how Stargates actually function. If we're to believe the franchise, dialing a Stargate requires 7 chevron symbols, with the first 6 being the desired address and the 7th being the currently dialing gate. An 8th chevron marks an even further distance in the Milky Way galaxy, much like a slingshot. To power a Stargate to a fabled 9th chevron, you will require the power equivalent to a black hole. An 8th, however, could be powered with an extreme heat source of thousands of degrees. I believe the energy from the biblical fiery furnace was extreme enough to activate the Stargate in Ur, allowing the 3 wise men to travel through and return unharmed with an extraterrestrial being. I believe that Saddam didn't actually know how to power their Stargate, which led him to believe that if he could accurately rebuild the conditions it was activated in before the reconstruction of Babylon, he could find answers. I don't believe the United States accurately knew how to power it either after their acquisition. They searched for answers in the past, much like Saddam had, which brings me to the next part of my theory, the hunt for the tomb of Gilgamesh. One of the earliest known works of literature, the Epic of Gilgamesh, recounts the legendary adventures of Gilgamesh, king of Uruk. While known as myth, there's evidence that Gilgamesh was an actual historical figure. His tomb, according to reports, has long been sought after by archaeologists and even intelligence agencies, like the Department of Defense and the CIA. The discovery of Gilgamesh's tomb would be a monumental find, not just for Iraq's history, but humanity as a whole. The Epic of Gilgamesh is deeply interwoven with stories found in modern religious texts, and its discovery could lend credence to several religious prophecies. In early 2003, there were reports that a team of archaeologists believed they had located the tomb of Gilgamesh. I speculate that among the interested parties was none other than the United States, with the help of Google and Hobby Lobby. During the invasion, thousands of artifacts were looted from Iraq and smuggled into the U.S. Many of these were ancient clay tablets and other relics, often sold on the black market or kept as war trophies. In response to the cultural devastation, the U.S. launched Operation Lost Treasure in 2008 to crack down on illegal dealers and return stolen items. To date, the United States government has returned over 177,000 artifacts to Iraq. Among the thousands of artifacts returned to Iraq was a 3,500-year-old tablet containing a portion of the Epic of Gilgamesh. This was no coincidence. While these artifacts were being smuggled in the United States, there were several major buyers, including Hobby Lobby. The Green family, who owns Hobby Lobby, was purchasing large quantities of looted clay tablets, cylinder seals, and other ancient artifacts for their Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. The museum did open, and it is still open today. In 2010, the Green family reportedly paid $1.6 million to a dealer in the UAE for a collection of artifacts. These included thousands of cuneiform tablets, clay something, cylinder seals. Both physical and Iraqi museum records suggest they were looted directly from the National Museum of Iraq in April of 2003. In 2011, U.S. Customs intervened as part of Operation Lost Treasures, seizing shipments intended for the Green family. In 2017, a civil forfeiture case titled The United States of America versus approximately 450 ancient cuneiform tablets and approximately 3,000 ancient clay was brought against Hobby Lobby, which they promptly lost. The company agreed to return 3,800 items in 2018, and in 2020, Steve Green returned an additional 11,500 artifacts. So far, the Green family have surrendered over 15,300 looted items. Hobby Lobby was only fined $3 million for their role in the scandal, a mere slap on the wrist for the Green family. David Green alone has a net worth of $13.7 billion and is the owner of the largest collection of over 40,000 biblical artifacts, including the Gutenberg Bible and the world's oldest star map. I speculate that to prevent public outcry, the government pinned the scandal entirely on their partner Hobby Lobby. Looking at Google Maps, or through other modern historical satellite imagery, there doesn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary. I theorize that there may be several gates located around the world, hidden from the public eye. Keyhole, a geospatial mapping company, rose to prominence in the 2003 Iraq War. They provided satellite imagery that was crucial for military and intelligence operations, along with satellite imagery that was used for most news reports. Backed by In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital firm, the government ensured that any visual proof of such artifacts remained out of the public eye. Keyhole was acquired by Google in 2004, and the partnership between Google and the CIA has never dissolved. Despite being public information, Google is not listed in their portfolio anywhere. In 2016, In-Q-Tel listed 325 investments, but more than 100 were kept secret. I propose that one of their unlisted investments to be the Green family's Museum of the Bible. Today, it sits at over 700. After the invasion, I believed that the Stargate was removed from the Ziggurat and transported elsewhere, where it's still being studied today. I present to you that the United States government orchestrated a war in the Middle East not for nuclear weapons of mass destruction, but to plunder Iraq's treasures with the help of Google, Hobby Lobby, and others, possibly to find the tomb of Gilgamesh and find the location of and activate the Stargate of Iraq. Do we have any questions?
Hey, buddy. I'm going to come and pick your brain right quick, okay? So early in the presentation, you said that the furnace with the three men burned so hot, it opened the Stargate, correct? And they came back with Jesus. So are you implying that Jesus is
No, I am
an
implying
alien?
that Ishtar was on the other side of the gate.
So it wasn't Jesus,
No, not.
but you showed us a picture of Jesus.
I'm not that talented in art. Hold on.
That's Jesus.
I don't know about that.
I believe the U.S. successfully captured a Stargate and we are hiding it in Area 51.
That's an interesting theory. I haven't explored that yet.
So could you clarify where the evidence is that Stargate was actually found by the United States, Google, and Hobby Lobby, as other than the symbols and the area being the same, what other evidence do we have that they were indeed after a Stargate?
Can you prove to me that God is real?
So in the Stargate, right? Was it just to get into a different dimension to hide things, or was it because he clearly didn't pull up any extra technology or anything?
Well, I don't believe that Saddam Hussein knew how to power the Stargate adequately, and that was his reconstruction of Babylon.
Thank you for your speech, and just clarification on one point. So are you saying that somehow this is all actually then they're connected to the Bass Pro Pyramid in Memphis, Tennessee?
Absolutely.
They very well could be. Isn't it the largest inside elevator?
I've been there. It's scary up there. Do you think that's why we don't go back to the moon?
Yes. I do believe that on the dark side of the moon, there's Nazis hiding out. They've turned the moon into a space station.
So are you saying that Nazis had the Stargate before we did?
Yes. Huge part of World War II, but we didn't get into that.
So you mentioned reverse engineering, or it's possible.
Yes.
And I noticed that we believed the Stargates to be a weapon of mass destruction, or a WMD, but that backwards is DMW, which sounds an awful lot like BMW. Who, what you said, metal. Hold on. You mentioned they use metal alloys in the construction of the Stargate, or it's possible. And BMW is one company that's known to use a lot of metal alloys in a lot of recent cars. And with your theory about the moon, do you think that BMW is colluding, because they were around in the 40s, do you think they were colluding to create a Stargate, and maybe if we're successful? Thank you.
I object that.
I do believe that you're correct, yes.
I had a couple questions. So you said the Nazis had a Stargate.
Yes.
So when did they acquire this?
Okay, so my thought is that we had pre-existing knowledge of a Stargate that existed on Earth and also on the moon. So I believe that they traveled to the moon, and it's where they still reside today.
Kyle, I think the question we're all wondering here is, do you have a Stargate? So, keeping the Nazi train rolling. So,
Didn't they hide a bunch of treasure on trains?
I think that might have been my ancestors, but besides that, cut that. So, do you think Hitler is still alive and kicking it and could possibly be on the moon, still in possession of a Stargate?
Yes.
Do you
I
think-
believe their Stargate was a one-way ticket.
Do you think we'll see a return of not the Third Reich, but the Fourth Reich?
I believe we will see a rise of Mecha Hitler in the next 20 years.
Elon Musk.
Yes.
SpaceX.
Yes. Yes.
He's making spaceships so he can visit the Nazis on the moon.
He's bringing them back. Starlink links the Stargates.
There's a connection here. I'm telling you.
Do you think Saddam Hussein was a fan of Sabrina Carpenter?